What is up, nerds, geeks, and collectors alike? Today we're taking a look at the Star Wars The Force Awakens 3.75-inch R2-D2 and C-3PO basic figure 2-pack. I've already had this figure at hand for quite some time. I picked this up from my local toy store, and not to mention it was on clearance. It was about $7. On the contrary of being basic figures, I thought to myself the painting looked good and the droids didn't have much articulation, so if I was gonna put them beside a 3.75-inch scale Black Series or vintage collection of Star Wars, they wouldn't have any problem fitting in, considering if I start collecting them. And even if I don't, I'd still be happy to have these two droids due to the fact that these were my first Star Wars figures back in the day. Taking a close look at the packaging, here we have an artwork of R2-D2 and C-3PO, manufactured by Hasbro and licensed by Walt Disney. And here we have a window where you can see the figures themselves. Here we have the logo of Disney. At the bottom, here we have the logo of certain terrains of the figures. I know these basic 3.75-inch figures came in 3 different terrains, snow, sand, and jungle, if I'm correct. Here we have the other figures, Finn, Kylo Ren, and a First Order Snowspeeder, which I actually have. And here we have another artwork of R2-D2 and C-3PO alongside with their bios. And if you want to read it, pause the video now. And there you have it. That's the back of the packaging. Here we have at the other side the logo of Star Wars. And at the bottom, we have the continuation of the picture from the front. At the top, nothing much, and at the bottom, the legal mumbo jumbo, as well as the UPC. So let's get these droids out. And here we have R2-D2 and C-3PO outside of packaging. You really can't have one without the other. In Star Wars, the organic main characters are usually a trio consisting of different characters per trilogy, but these two are always present and always consistent throughout the entire Star Wars franchise, from Phantom Menace during the Clone Wars and the Empire up until to the sequel trilogy. These guys really stayed in the entire franchise, and not to mention that they are the longest surviving characters of the Star Wars canon. And moving on, let's take a closer look at C-3PO first. As a basic figure, C-3PO is fairly painted and sculpted. Here we have the overall gold color that he comes with. I like the fact what they did here with the eyes. They colored him with this yellow in order to differentiate his eyes from his overall gold look, and as well as his red arm, which was featured in The Force Awakens. And moving on to his belly, here we have some additional paint. Considering that this guy is a basic figure, he is fairly painted, especially here at the wires, and on the leg we have that overall gold paint. I'm really amazed with the painting that went into the wires on his abdomen section. You don't usually see that much detail, especially when it comes to basic figures. On his palm, he also has that black paint. And that's about it for the details and overall in-depth look at C-3PO. Moving on to R2-D2, I personally think he was underused in the sequel trilogy. I wish we've gotten more screen time of R2, considering he did a lot in the prequel trilogy as well as the Clone Wars TV show, and not to mention his impact on the original trilogy. Taking a closer look at the figure itself, here we have some nice painting and sculpting. The application of the overall blue is clean, as well as the silver applications, and I really like the red dot on his face that's cleanly painted in. What I noticed with basic figures are they are sculpted beautifully. The only thing that they are lacking are additional joints as well as some painting. But overall, this is a good R2-D2. And taking a look at the back, nothing much is going on here. We just have that white plastic, and there you have it. that's the in-depth look at R2-D2. Moving on to accessories, the only one who comes with the accessories is R2-D2, but since it's a basic figure, they tend to add accessories that was never really featured in the movie. Here we have some shoulder cannons for R2-D2, taking a close look at that. Jetpack lookalike of Jango Fett and Boba Fett. All you have to do is put that there, and to put this together, here is a slot and this tabs in there, while there is another tab on the other piece, while the other one has the hole that you peg it in with. And there you have R2-D2's shoulder cannons. We never actually saw R2-D2 use such a tool, but it's nice to have. Here we have a translucent blue shock effect, shock blast projectile, if you will. In order to insert this, the tabs are at the top. You just slide that in there. That goes the same for the other one, and there you have it. And taking a look at the cannon itself, it has this gray paint as well as the blue on top of the flat gray finish. And to the backpack, here we have that dark gray paint, and the other side of the shoulder cannon is actually just the same with the first one that we took a look at. And in order to put this on top of R2-D2, he has a slot or a groove shape into his shoulder. Unfortunately, he cannot hold them since it tends to weigh him down. And in order to shoot this, let's just use C-3PO as a practice target. What you have to do is, you see this projectile sticking out, all you have to do is press that down. So let me take a firm grip at R2 while trying my best not to block your view, and just push this down, and there you have it. And let's try that again. Let's get C-3PO up. Don't try it, C-3PO. You underestimate my power, R2. But in all seriousness, these projectiles are really small, so they are a real choking hazard for your kids or for you as well. That goes the same. So I recommend be careful around them, especially with little kids who would try to swallow or put the blast effects or the overall figure into their mouths, because these are very small pieces, especially considering that they are in a 3.75-inch scale. And as fun as playing with these figures are, and as cool as they look and the characters they represent, safety is still of the utmost importance. Always monitor your kids when playing with figures this small. On the side note, truth be told, I am only stalling since I'm looking for the blast effect on the floor. It's really a hard time seeing them. Here's one, and I found it. Here it is. And they are translucent pieces of plastic. So moving into the articulation, here we have C-3PO. He only has 5 points of articulation. His head can do an entire 360. He cannot look up or down, but his hands can do an entire 360 with no problem. And he can kick, and his leg can also go out that far. And that's about it for C-3PO's articulation, and that is actually his articulation. Even in the movies and in the TV show, that's all of his range of motion, so you're not really missing out on anything. Moving on into R2-D2, his head can do an entire 360, and his feet can do an entire 360 rotation. Same goes for the other one. R2-D2 only has 3 points of articulation, and that is also his range of motion. And for some size comparison, let's get out the trusted ruler, where C-3PO stands a little above the 3.5-inch scale, while R2-D2 stands a little above 2 inches. And let's include other figures that I have in my possession. Here we have the Studio Series Deluxe Class Dark of the Moon Sideswipe. And let's include the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Captain America Civil War Battle Damaged Iron Man. And as you can see, R2 stands just below Iron Man's knee, same goes for Sideswipe, and C-3PO stands a little below Iron Man's thigh and a little above Sideswipe's abdomen section. So final thoughts on the figure, I think these guys would really fit well in a 3.75-inch scale, where as basic figures you won't have a problem with the pricing as well as the posability, since the points of articulation these figures come are the same range of motions that these characters occupy in all of their media debut. Not to mention that the sculpting and painting is fairly good, especially that they are just basic figures. Unfortunately, it won't be easy to find these 2-pack since Force Awakens came out a long time ago and the sequel trilogy has officially ended. But if you are willing to make the effort of finding these guys, I say go for it. There isn't really a problem. So if you like this video, drop a like and subscribe for more content. Till next time, see ya.